Keir Starmer has suspended 4 Labour MPs, Rachael Maskell, Neil Duncan-Jordan, Brian Leishman and Chris Hinchliffe, for refusing to vote for disability benefit cuts. And with that, he sent an unmistakable message to both his party and the public. Loyalty to the leader now trumps loyalty to Labour values. This authoritarian move, delivered as MPs were packing up for the summer recess, has triggered fury within Labour ranks. But more than that, it has exposed a dangerous fault line running through the heart of the Starmer project. A leader more concerned with enforcing obedience than listening, learning, or leading with conviction. At a time when millions are looking to Labour for hope, compassion, and a new political culture, Starmer is offering only discipline, detachment, and punishment. These MPs weren't suspended for disloyalty or disrepute. They were suspended for having a conscience. All 4 MPs voted against government welfare reforms that could push up to 800,000 disabled people into poverty. That's the real reason they were targeted. Neil Duncan-Jordan, a new MP from Poole, was blunt. He said, "I couldn't support making disabled people poorer." Rachael Maskell, the MP for York Central and a former shadow cabinet minister under Jeremy Corbyn, said, "I have stood up for disabled people all my life. I am upset that we are in this place because I believe we are better than that as a party." Brian Leishman called it a moral obligation. He said, "I firmly believe that it is not my duty as an MP to make people poorer, especially those that have suffered because of austerity and its dire consequences." And Chris Hinchliffe, who helped organise a rebellion over environmental concerns in the government's planning bill, said simply, "I will continue to fight every day for the needs of my constituents. Nothing will change in how I engage with and represent those I was elected to serve." These are not rogue MPs. They are representatives trying to give voice to the voiceless. But in Starmer's Labour, principled action is now met with silence, suspicion, and the sack. Inside the Parliamentary Labour Party, the reaction has been scathing. "This is now, frankly, a punishment beating," said one MP. They've learned nothing. There's no sense of self-analysis or reflection about how they could have done better. Another warned, Labour MPs now return to their constituencies for the summer, totally demoralised by these petty and vindictive actions. It's dreadful politics and risks jeopardising the opportunity that such a massive majority presents. Instead of fostering unity, Starmer has fuelled resentment. Instead of persuading MPs with arguments, he's punished them with exclusion. Steve Richards, host of the Rock and Roll Politics podcast, nailed the deeper problem. He said, "A strong leader wins arguments through the power of persuasion and a convincing policy agenda, not through withdrawing the whip, having failed to persuade amidst a policy shambles." That's exactly what this is, a policy shambles. These suspensions come hot on the heels of a major government U-turn on welfare. Rather than admit fault or open dialogue, Downing Street doubled down, using the disciplinary process as a cudgel to intimidate its own MPs. One Labour left MP said the decision came from Starmer's office. It's intended to create a climate of fear in the party. What those MPs did, what we all did, was to defend Labour values. Alongside the 4 suspensions, Labour also stripped 3 MPs, Rosina Allen Khan, Bel Ribeiro Adi and Mohammed Yassin, of their government trade envoy roles for their own rebellions. The move was described by one Labour MP as particularly weird, noting, "There are Tory and Lib Dem trade envoys who vote against the government all the time, and that's okay, but a Labour one gets sacked for one rebellion? Make it make sense." Make it make sense indeed. Even trade union leaders are sounding the alarm. Steve Wright, General Secretary of the Fire Brigades Union, called the move a dangerous and authoritarian act. This is not an isolated crackdown. Last summer, Starmer suspended 7 MPs, including John McDonnell, Richard Bergen, Rebecca Long-Bailey and Zara Sultana, for voting to scrap the 2-child benefit cap. Some of those MPs have since had the whip restored. Others remain in limbo, caught in a web of vague discipline and selective enforcement. And Sultana explosively quit the party only weeks ago. The result? An atmosphere where speaking out is dangerous and stepping out of line means banishment. Clive Lewis put it best. "We must strike a balance between collective discipline and open, principled debate, even in government. Silencing that role is a dangerous road for any democracy. What's happened today risks making voters wonder if they're simply getting more of the same." Perhaps most damning of all is how distant Starmer has remained from his own MPs, even the newly elected ones. Victoria Derbyshire revealed that Brian Leishman, one of the suspended 4, had never once spoken with the Prime Minister. He said, "I've not uttered a word with the Prime Minister." That's notwithstanding a couple of questions he asked in Prime Minister's questions. This is the hallmark of a top-down, bunker-style leadership, one that sees backbench MPs not as people with insight and purpose, but as voting machines. Walk through the lobby when told. Keep your head down. Don't ask questions. There's little wonder then that criticism from within is intensifying. John Trickett was emphatic. "It's not a sin to stand up for the poor and disabled. We fight on for justice." Ian Byrne pointed out the real political danger. "These decisions don't show strength. They are damaging Labour's support and risk rolling out the red carpet for reform." And Zara Sultana, now helping to build a breakaway left party with Jeremy Corbyn, didn't mince words either. She said, "A year ago, Starmer and Morgan McSweeney suspended 7 of us for voting to scrap the 2-child benefit cap. Now they're punishing MPs who opposed cuts that would push 800,000 disabled people into poverty. Insecure men. No vision, no compassion." And Keir Starmer's war on the Labour left appears to be escalating. If you thought suspending 4 MPs for protecting the disabled, among other things, was bad, consider this. Now Diane Abbott is in the firing line again. Why? Because she stood by her intention to make a legitimate point about the difference in how people of colour experience racism, compared to those whose ethnicity isn't visible at first glance. This is not about anti-Semitism, for crying out loud. It's about power and the ruthlessness with which Starmer is wielding it. It is also about silencing the most prominent left-wing black woman in British politics. A new Labour government should be celebrating its most historic trailblazers, not humiliating them. So, what did Diane Abbott actually say? In a wide-ranging BBC interview with James Naughtie, Diane Abbott was asked if she regretted the 2023 Observer letter that got her suspended from Labour. Her reply was, and I quote, "No, not at all." She then elaborated carefully that racism based on skin colour is immediately visible, while other forms are not. She said, "You can see a traveller or a Jewish person walking down the street. You don't know. But if you see a black person walking down the street, you see straight away that they're black." Is that a denial of racism faced by Jewish or traveller communities? No. She said, "Of course I condemn anti-Semitism. I've spent a lifetime fighting racism of all kinds, and in particular fighting anti-Semitism, partly because of the nature of my constituency." So, why is the Labour Party now saying it is, and I quote, taking these comments incredibly seriously? Why is the threat of renewed disciplinary action hanging in the air? Because Abbott dared to speak again, and because she refused to recant everything. Let's be honest about what happened in 2023. Diane Abbott tried to draw a distinction between prejudice and racism as lived daily experience, but she did it in a clumsy, reductive way that understandably caused hurt, for which she apologised. The point she was trying to make is one that many people of colour and many political commentators understand. People of colour face racism that is immediate, constant, and often unavoidable because it is based on visible difference. Others may suffer horrific discrimination too, but it is not always triggered on sight. That is the discussion Diane Abbott wanted to open. That is what she refuses to regret. And she is right. As I previously stated, and I quote myself, "At the end of the day, it was a valid point made in a very clumsy way." She apologised. She completed anti-Semitism training that was completely unnecessary in my opinion. She accepted a formal warning. She was readmitted to Labour just in time to stand in the 2024 general election. And yet now the Labour leadership is sharpening the knives again. Why? Let's be honest, if Diane Abbott was one of Keir Starmer's inner circle, none of this would be happening. She is being targeted not because she is anti-Semitic, but because she is a prominent, principled, outspoken left-wing MP, a friend of Jeremy Corbyn, a critic of Blairism, a figure beloved by grassroots members. And now Starmer wants her gone. In her interview, Abbott herself said she believed the leadership was trying to remove her. She said, "There were hints that I would be offered a seat in the House of Lords if I stepped down. I was never going to do that. And I'm a Labour MP today, and I'm grateful." Translation, they tried to buy her silence. She said no. Now they're coming for her again. Does that seem familiar? It should. First, they came for Corbyn. Then for left-wing Jewish members. Then for the Socialist Campaign Group. Now the 4 MPs who stood up for disabled people. And now Diane Abbott. Again. This is not principled discipline. It is political purging. If Keir Starmer chooses to act against Diane Abbott again, the consequences will be disastrous, and not just for his standing on the Labour left. It will be seen as vindictive, cowardly, and racially loaded. Diane Abbott is Britain's first black woman MP. She is the mother of the House, that being the House of Commons. She has faced more racist abuse than any other MP, in fact, more than all of them put together. And she has fought for decades for the rights of the most marginalised. To destroy her political career over a 2-year-old controversy that has already been investigated, resolved, and for which she has already apologised will look and feel like a deliberate attempted humiliation. It will further divide Labour MPs. It will deepen distrust among the membership. And it will confirm for many voters, especially black voters, that Starmer's Labour has no room for dissent and no respect for difference. And in a context of racism, that is a dangerous way to look. Already, sentiment is turning. The suspensions of the 4 MPs for standing up for disabled constituents have left backbenchers demoralised. A growing number of MPs and members are now openly questioning Starmer's priorities and his soul. The moment he targets Diane Abbott again may be the moment this quiet discontent turns into outright revolt. Abbott has said she doesn't regret trying to raise an important point. She only regrets the way it came out. That is honest. That is human. Should we punish honesty now? Should we punish imperfection, even after a sincere apology? Or should we recognise that real leadership involves understanding the message behind the clumsy words and listening to people who speak from lived experience? Keir Starmer can't claim to lead a party of compassion and inclusion while threatening one of the most prominent black women in political history for being honest about racism. If Starmer were to act against Diane Abbott now, he would be making a foolish, vindictive, and self-destructive move. But more than that, he would disgrace himself. Rachael Maskell, in her dignified statement, said she hoped to build a bridge with the party and the Prime Minister. She spoke of her lifelong commitment to equality, justice, and the Labour Party itself. But when principled, long-serving parliamentarians like Maskell and Diane Abbott, or newly elected MPs like Duncan Jordan and Leishman, are cast out for standing up for society's most marginalised, one has to ask, who exactly is Starmer's Labour for? It's beginning to look like it isn't for disabled people, nor for poor families, nor for those suffering under austerity, nor for black people, nor even for Labour MPs with the courage to stand up for them. In the eyes of many members, Starmer's Labour is fast becoming a machine, cold, closed, hierarchical, and obsessed with control. MPs are expected to be numbers in a spreadsheet, not representatives with minds of their own. And voters are seen as bodies for the ballot box, not people who demand and deserve real change. If that perception hardens, if more MPs and voters begin to believe that Starmer's leadership is about his advancement, not the country's, then for him, this could be more than a rebellion. It could be the beginning of the end. I've been Mike Sevier of Vox Political, and now it's time to buy me a coffee. That means donating to the business, the website, the videos. You can do this via the coffee.com website. I think the display should be on the screen at the moment. Also, please subscribe to the video mailing list and like, comment and subscribe to this video as well. If you do all that, you'll be able to see me again in the next one.